I thought I had it all. A loving fiancé, a successful career. A life that was heading exactly where I wanted it to go. Sarah and I had been together for 5 years, and our wedding was just a few months away. We were building a future, or so I thought. The first crack in my perfect world appeared subtly. It started with late nights at the office. Whispered phone calls she'd cut short when I walked into the room, and a general distance that felt like a cold draft in our once warm home. I tried to talk to her about it, but she'd always brush it off, blaming wedding stress or a demanding new project at work. I wanted to believe her, I really did. But my gut, that primal instinct we so often ignore, was screaming that something was wrong. The truth, when it finally hit, was more brutal than I could have ever imagined. I came home early one day, planning to surprise her with her favorite takeout, but the surprise was on me. Her car was in the driveway, and so was another one, a sleek, expensive sports car I recognized instantly. It belonged to Mark, my business partner, and, until that moment, my best friend. My heart pounded in my chest as I quietly opened the front door. The sounds from our bedroom confirmed my worst fears. It wasn't just a betrayal. It was a conspiracy. The two people I trusted most in the world, colluding behind my back, in my home, in our bed. I didn't confront them. I just backed away, the takeout bag slipping from my numb fingers. I drove to a hotel, my mind a chaotic storm of shock, rage, and a soul-crushing sadness. That night, I didn't sleep. The initial wave of grief slowly receded, replaced by a cold, hard resolve. They had destroyed my peace. They had shattered my world. I wasn't just going to get over it. I was going to get even. The next day, I walked into our shared office like nothing was wrong. I smiled at Mark, asked about his weekend, and discussed our upcoming project presentations. He was a little jumpy, avoiding my gaze, but he had no idea I knew. Sarah texted me, full of fake apologies for falling asleep early and not answering my calls. I replied with a heart emoji, telling her not to worry. Playing the fool was the first step in my plan. It gave me the space I needed to gather my ammunition. For weeks, I lived a double life. By day, I was the clueless, loving fiancé and the trusting business partner. By night, I became a detective, digging into every aspect of their lives. My first target was their finances. Mark had always been a bit flashy, living beyond his means. I started meticulously reviewing our company's accounts. It didn't take long to find the discrepancies. Small at first, then larger. He had been skimming money from our company for over a year, funneling it into a personal account to fund his lavish lifestyle and shower Sarah with gifts. He'd been covering his tracks with doctored invoices and fake expense reports. He was a good con man, but I knew our books better than he did. I spent countless nights cross-referencing every transaction, building an undeniable mountain of evidence. I compiled everything into a neat, encrypted file. Bank statements, forged documents, a clear timeline of his theft. This was more than just a betrayal. It was a serious crime. While I was building my case against Mark, I didn't forget about Sarah. I knew her weakness, her obsession with social status, and her public image. Her family was very traditional and highly respected in our community. They prided themselves on their integrity and moral standing. Sarah had crafted a perfect image for them, the devoted fiancé to a successful entrepreneur. I needed to shatter that image, but not with a simple accusation. I needed irrefutable proof. I hired a private investigator, a discreet professional who specialized in digital forensics. He recovered deleted text messages and photos from their cloud backups. The conversations were sickening. They mocked me, my trust, my love. They detailed their trysts, their plans for a future together after they had bled my company dry. They even had nicknames for me, cruel jokes about how blind I was. Every word was a fresh stab to the heart, but it also fueled my determination. I now had a complete record of their affair and their financial fraud. The stage was set. Our company had an annual gala, a major event attended by our clients, investors, and all of our employees and their families. Mark was slated to give the keynote address. Sarah's parents were going to be there, sitting right at the front table, beaming with pride. It was the perfect venue for my grand finale. A few days before the gala, I called an anonymous tip into the financial crimes unit, detailing Mark's embezzlement and telling them exactly where to find him on the night of the event. I also arranged for a little technical surprise during his presentation. The night of the gala arrived. Primera looked calm, dressed in my best suit. I greeted Sarah's parents warmly, shaking her father's hand. Sarah was on my arm, looking radiant in a new dress one I now knew was bought with stolen money. She was a little nervous, but attributed it to the big night. Mark took the stage to thunderous applause. He started his speech, talking about trust, partnership, and integrity. The irony was so thick you could cut it with a knife. He smiled, his perfect corporate mask firmly in place. "And now," he said, gesturing to the large screen behind him, "I'd like to share our vision for the future." That was my cue. As he clicked the remote, the screen didn't show his projected growth charts. Instead, it lit up with their text messages, the private, sordid conversations, displayed for hundreds of people to see. The insults, the plans, the mockery. A collective gasp filled the room. The silence was deafening. Sarah's face went white. Her mother looked like she was about to faint. Mark stood frozen on stage, his face a mask of pure horror, frantically clicking his remote. But my tech guy had locked him out. Then, as if on cue, the doors at the back of the ballroom burst open. 2 uniformed officers and a pair of plainclothes detectives walked in purposefully. They walked straight to the stage. "Mark," one of the detectives said, his voice calm but firm, "you're under arrest for fraud and embezzlement." The chaos was absolute as they cuffed a stunned Mark and led him away. Sarah started sobbing hysterically. Her father, his face a thunderous shade of red, grabbed her by the arm and dragged her out of the room, away from the prying eyes and whispers. I didn't stick around to watch the aftermath. I simply turned and walked out, leaving the wreckage of their lives behind me. I didn't feel joy or triumph, just a quiet, empty sense of closure. They had destroyed my peace, but in the end, their own deceit and greed destroyed them. The weeks that followed were a blur of legal proceedings and damage control. The company took a hit, but with Mark gone and the evidence I provided, we were able to recover. I became the sole owner. I had to testify against Mark, laying out the details of his scheme. He was sentenced to several years in prison. Sarah disappeared from my life completely. I heard through the grapevine that her family had disowned her, and she had moved away, ashamed and alone. I sold the house we were supposed to build our life in, wanting a clean break from the memories. Did revenge make me happy? No. It didn't magically heal the wounds or erase the betrayal. But it gave me justice. It gave me a sense of control in a situation where I had been made to feel powerless. It was a painful, ugly chapter of my life, but I closed it on my own terms. Rebuilding my life wasn't easy. Trusting people again is a slow process. But I'm getting there.